Welcome everybody to today's stream. Hope you had a nice day so far. Welcome Filthy Casual, welcome. I did not believe my eyes when I saw yesterday's stream, and you were completely right. It's actually crazy. With the thief nerfs. Insane. Crazy, crazy. Welcome Heavenfire, welcome. Yeah, so for those that don't know, the nerfs to Thief were, I would say, overdue for years now, and finally they, I don't know, just understood the problem, and now they nerfed quite a bit of Deadeye skills, I would say, and just in general the obnoxious stealth access a little bit more punishing to perma stealth or to fail. So that's really cool. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so what do you think about the balance patch? I mean, I will make half an hour or so. I will start my analysis of the patch. But what do you think so far? Do you enjoy it, or do you think it's not good enough or mixed? Because I'm really interested what other people think, because I heard a lot of opinions yesterday already. But so far, I would say it's one of the better patches when it comes to people's opinions. I will give you mine in a half an hour, like I said. But I think we can say one thing for sure, and that's that this patch is quite big. It's not a patch that is just changing numbers, or at least it's not changing numbers in a way that it's not changing much. I think most of the numbers they change are either quite big or at least somewhat thoughtful. Yeah. Welcome, Mid, on YouTube. Yes, I'm German. Sorry, I'm not French. But it's fine. I can also translate French stuff, so that's fine. Yeah, that's true. That's a very good pointer. I think it's always one thing to see the patch notes, and then a totally different thing to see how it plays in game. I think the biggest things that I can not really tell are, of course, if you talk about PvE, about the benchmarks and stuff, how that will be affected. Of course, you can make rough estimations. If you get a 10% damage nerf on a disc trade or something, then you can estimate, okay, this will probably result in maybe, I don't know, a 10 to 8% damage nerf overall or something. Yeah, you can estimate that. But I think sometimes, for example, if they change skills, power coefficients on weapon skills and stuff, it's really complicated, because sometimes you just drop the weapon skill completely. Maybe you drop the complete weapon and change it for another one, and then you can't really estimate how much that impacts the overall benchmark and stuff. Yeah, I get that. But even in PvP, I think it's really hard. Sometimes they make changes that only 0.5 of a second or something when it comes to boons and stuff. And you think, that will not impact anything. But then when you ask the really experienced PvPers, especially those that really build craft and think about the meta, yeah, the ones that win the monthly AT or something, then they say, that's a big change. That changes everything about the build. So it's really hard to just look at the patch notes and say, okay, that's a good change, that's a bad change for most people. I would say it's possible, but when it comes to how it plays out, you always have to see how it develops. Because you could see, I think with the last balance patch, it was really interesting. People said, yeah, it's not a good patch, yeah? And I would agree to that statement. It was not that crazy of a patch last time, yeah? But, and that's the really important thing, we had still changes that affected, for example, the PvP meta after 1 or 2 months after the patch came through, because people discovered some builds that were really good against other builds currently in the meta. And then the meta changed without a new balance patch. So sometimes it's really interesting that I don't know how it plays out in the end, because it's not always about a change that is instantly affecting something. It takes a while for the meta to adjust if people don't realize how good or how something can be used. I think that's really interesting. Okay, so we have a question from YouTube here regarding support Vindicator. So in general, I would say, just not taking the next patch into consideration, just in general, I think support Vindicator is a really weird playstyle. Because they have clearly a power Vindicator design in mind. Yeah. So that you have a Vindicator that does damage on dodge and it gets amplified damage after dodging. That makes sense. Power Vindicator in all game modes is playable. But support Vindicator has a big problem when it comes to especially PvE. It doesn't have a boon. It doesn't have quickness or alacrity, and therefore it's not usable in that sense, because Guild Wars 2 is in no need in PvE for one total boonless or somewhat boonless healer that is new. That's, I don't know. It's really focused on something that is not that necessary, because there is no fight in the game that needs healing only, and or let's say is requiring 3 healers and one of them doesn't give a boon. That's not necessary at all. So the question now is, how can you make this build viable without making it completely broken in PvP and World vs. World, because their alacrity and quickness are either not existent at all or not in that regard that the supports are fighting for it. So I think support Vindicator is in a weird spot, because in PvE it will never be meta without any boons. Yeah? And in PvP in World vs. World, it gets really obnoxious to have a support that supports its allies by dodging. I think it's one thing to make a dodge affect your gameplay. This is already obnoxious by itself, I would say, because the dodge is a defensive maneuver. And if the game is affected, the gameplay, just by dodging, in the sense that you, for example, have an aggressive skill because you deal damage when you dodge, is already bad. But if you have a support skill on your dodge, a really big support skill, like maybe applying chill on the enemies, giving protection to allies and stuff, this makes it really hard to counterplay. So I think support Vindicator is really hard to balance. I think the design could be fun. Don't get me wrong. I would enjoy to play this. But it's really hard, because I think there is a very slim threshold where you can say, okay, now it's okay. But as soon as you cross this, it gets overpowered. And therefore, I think Vindicator I would rather have an underpowered Vindicator than have an overpowered one. That's my take, because Vindicator, as soon as it gets overpowered, it gets very, very obnoxious. At least in competitive modes I'm talking about, because the counterplay is not there. What can you do against a support that is dodging 60% of the time, because it needs to dodge to support? So how can you counterplay a support that is dodging, because dodging makes it baseline invulnerable, or somewhat? And this is not something that you, I don't know, can solve by changing numbers, because dodging is a dodge. It's made you evade. So yeah, that's just my take. Okay, the wall is open. Nice. Yeah, I mean, my Tempest support, especially for World vs. World, this one actually gets hit. I did not expect it, but the balance patch actually hits it. And I would say it hits it decently hard. Yeah, that's the sad part. That's the sad part. But we will get to that in a few minutes when I debate the balance patch and give you my analysis. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Mitt, that the counter to Vindicator is CC. But in my opinion, this can be solved, for example, if you go with Chalice Elite, Chalice Road and stuff, or just use your stability skills on Vindicator. And I think CC is the counter to every single spec, so it's not something specific. But you have to land the CC in any case. So it's the only CC skills that are really, really good against it are either Shocking Aura, because it will CC them as soon as they land, or maybe even Static Field or Unstable Ground, that kind of stuff, or the Ring of Warding, or how it's called, from Guardian. Those kind of stuff that you can't move through even when you dodge. This is true, but most of the time I would say Vindicator is still quite obnoxious to play against. I think this is a statement that a lot of people would agree on. That someone that is doing something while they dodge is always quite annoying. It's also with Mirage. Mirage is exactly the same. Yes, I will definitely try to make the build work again. Or what do I say? Again, it's probably not that hard to find a replacement, or making it work to a certain extent. Because I would say it's still working with the same gear, same stuff, but it's definitely not as strong anymore. But I would say the thing about World vs. World is I think every single build that is currently really good got hit by the balance patch. So it might be okay to have a worse build because everything else is also worse. So if that makes sense, yeah. If you just tune down the power level of everything, then you don't have to change your build in that sense. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm really happy to see changes that I think about and want to maybe make new builds and stuff, because that is what I was looking for a balance patch. So yeah. And I have some ideas that I want to test definitely after the balance patch. Especially, I was really surprised that they, not released, but announced that there will be 12 new relics coming, which is really cool. It's really, really cool. Let's see how good they are when they play out, but I would say it's very interesting to me that they are core relics. So everyone can get them from everyone from core. You can even get them from the trading post. This is really interesting. And I agree with you, Mitt, that the balance changes are insane, or at least somewhat crazy, some of them. So I will go over them in let's say 15 minutes or so. And I would say it's cool that they add new relics, at least more of them. I'm a little bit sad that there are no new Chantier-Waltz relics. Maybe there are, because they did not say specifically that they will only add those. Maybe they add 6 more of the Chantier-Waltz as well, and just 12 more core relics, so in total 18. That would be amazing. I would be really happy about that. But it's not clear. They could also just add 12 core relics and that's it. At least I did not hear anything about if they will add 6 more Chantier-Waltz relics. Because I think relics can really change the playstyle of a build and make the build work or not work. I think that's really cool. When they said they bring back some old core stuff, I really hope that they would bring back Rune of Tormenting. Just because I'm such a fan of this design. Of course, it was way too broken, but it would be so fun if they would reintroduce that as a relic. So every time you apply Torment, was the rune, you heal. Doesn't have an internal cooldown. It was just very broken. It was actually so broken that this rune alone carried Condition Ref. Condition Herald. It was so crazy in World vs. World. It was one of the best builds ever existed. I think it's hard to make it work without being totally broken, but I think they can try, and this would be a really cool relic. I really hope they will reintroduce that at some point. Welcome, Roderick, welcome. Yeah, I think it's at least a balanced patch that sparks discussion. I think that's definitely something that is good. And I really hope they continue with this 3-month schedule of having balanced patches and also some was big changes. I think that's the most important part, not just number changes. And insignificant ones at that. Yeah, I will go over the patch notes in a few minutes and give you my take on them. I think most we can summarize there. A lot of them were expected, or somewhat expected, but I have to say or agree with some people in chat here. It is one of the more crazy ones. The reason for that is, I would say, the balance patch, I don't know, adjusted stuff that I did not expect to be adjusted. Not in the sense that it doesn't need to be adjusted or I'm not happy about it most of the time, but it's just I did not expect it, because most of the time they are really careful and cautious, but some of the stuff that they adjusted is definitely not cautious, I would say. Yeah. No, it's definitely not all. There are way more nerfs and buffs than Willbender changes, for sure. I would say this patch is definitely bigger or more impactful than the last one. Yeah. Which dagger do you mean? Which PvE dagger? I think they nerfed. What I was actually quite surprised on, I can spoiler you a bit here, is that they nerfed Virtuoso in PvE. I think this is actually quite interesting. Because that has been out since release almost, and they now slowly adjust it. That's actually really interesting. So quite a big nerf actually, when it comes to damage. Yeah, I think the nerfs to PvP dagger are Tempest in particular, or just Elementalist dagger in general, are definitely good in that sense, because it was a really bunkery, obnoxious build, and if you know what you're doing, this build could really easily sustain and bunker build against two people if they are not good. This is not good. I think it's not healthy to have a build that is bunkering, or I think you should have a build that is somewhat how can I say, killable in the right circumstances, and this build was in rank really annoying to fight sometimes. So I think it's definitely okay to have some changes to it, and I would say the build is definitely still viable after the nerfs. It's not completely killed. It's just a little bit less tanky, or at less sustaining. I think that's definitely a good thing. It is sad for the people that played it. Yes, I get that. But I think that's always the case with balance changes. Always people that played the build would say, oh, better not nerf it, yeah? I get that. But in the end, if you look at the whole picture, then it's always better to nerf stuff that is overperforming. And if you are somewhat objective about this, then you would probably agree to that. Yeah, at least that's my take. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this build is still gonna be quite playable. It is not that crazy strong anymore, but it's still very strong, don't get me wrong. So I think if you played it for 1 year, then you will still be very, very, yeah, okay with it, for sure. Especially because you have to think the meta is changing, and I don't want to spoiler here too much, but I think Willbender might be a little bit weaker, a little bit at least, and that helps this build. So don't look at the stats only that you get from this single nerf. Look also at the changes that the other classes get, and that might help this build for sure. So always think about that in that way as well. The meta is not only one change in vacuum, it's also all the other changes at the same time. So that's my take on that, yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important, like Heaven Fire points out, that if you are just one class main, so if you only play one class, you always feel really bad with balance patches. I think there is no way that you feel, oh, this is amazing, because there are just too many changes that will either affect you in a positive or negative way, or, and that's the most likely one, they don't change anything and you are sad because they didn't change anything. So in my opinion, it's always better to enjoy the game with multiple perspectives, because then you will not be sad when something gets nerfed, or you can just adjust to what is currently good, because that is always a really interesting thing to do, to get the perspective of what's good. Because sometimes if you say, oh, I'm only playing Elementalist, and then they buff and nerf stuff and you are sad about it, yeah, maybe go try another class, and then you see, oh, this class is actually even better than Elementalist. Why not? And I think what's also really important is, I think Guild Wars 2 doesn't have enough content released into the game, and even not enough balance patches, that you can say, oh, I'm not getting bored from just one class. So I think it's really important to just get more fun out of the game by having multiple classes to play. And yeah, that's just my take. Okay, I think I will wait for this tick, and then we will do the discussion and the analysis. I'm really interested to see tonight is the monthly AT. So this will be the last monthly AT on this patch, obviously. And I'm really interested to see what the people come up with. Because always with the changes to that you have the next AT after the next balance patch, you don't know if this will be the last time they play those builds. So it's really interesting. And I'm really hoping for some spicy matches. The update will happen at the 11th of February, so it's roughly 2.5 weeks from now. Yes, see you later then. Yeah, I think it's that you have definitely. Yeah, it's that Guild Wars 2 has so easy access. I will do a YouTube video about it as well, so don't worry if you miss something. I will release it later today, I guess. That you have so easy access to different classes in Guild Wars 2, or not classes, different characters. I think this is really important, because I think games that lock you into a specific class and you can't swap it again, I always feel really sad about it. You know, I want to experience the full game and not only one aspect of it. I think that is really bad, because as a veteran, I really like to have an opinion or the perspective of every single thing, and I want to try it out. And if you can't do that because you have way too much grind to do to get another character up to a level 80 or whatever maximum level that is, I think this is definitely really sad. So I'm really happy that you can do that, especially when it comes to PvP. It's really just create the character and play the character. It's you don't even have to level it, so it's really good. Yeah, it's definitely true. I would say this is a very good point there. We don't know what will come with the next balance with the next expansion regarding combat updates. And they said they will definitely do some combat changes in that sense, like a relic or new weapons. So there will be definitely coming a big change in that sense. A big change will be coming. And they will probably change stuff already because of what they expect will be strong. Yeah, I would be really surprised if they didn't do that. So let's hope they know what they are doing in that sense, because we don't know what they will change. And if they now make small adjustments already, they should be better sure about how they think it will work out in the end. Definitely. Okay, I think it's time. Let's bring it up. Give me a second. Okay. I have to be honest. I think playing a game, yeah, like Guild Wars 2, and being a doomer, like saying always, oh, that's not gonna happen, that's be sad, that will not be good, they will do bad stuff. I think that really drastically reduces the fun that you have in a game. So why do that? Because a game is just fun. You don't want to play a game if it's not fun. So I think if I just am hopeful regarding the future, then in the end I will have more fun by doing that. Even if I will be disappointed when the time happens, if I'm hopeful for the next part of the future, then I have more fun playing it. So I think this is really important. So I can show you we have a question from YouTube. I'm on Skritzberg, I think it's called, and my build is Celestial currently. On this was Dagger Celestial build. I'm on Skritzberg here, and my build is a Celestial Dagger Catalyst, Celestial Leadership Rune, Relic of Nyos, Energy Absorption. I have a build guide of this on YouTube, so if you want more details. And I'm running Earth Fire just for a lot of Condi glances and a lot of might application with Spear Specialist. Yeah, this is the build. Yes. Okay, so now I wanted to do the balance. Okay. I think we are ready. So let's start with this analysis. First of all, this patch will happen on the 11th of February. So this is a preview for the next 2.5 weeks. They might add some changes to it. They did that before. Most of the time, though, it was rather rigid, so they did not change much of it. Quick introduction. I think it's quite a lot of changes that are coming, and a lot of them are actually World vs. World only changes. So I will go over every single change in order here. We're going through the classes. So I'm not going through World vs. World only and then PvE only and then PvP only, because a lot of them are either affecting only one game mode or they change some functionality and it affects all game modes, and I think it makes sense to talk about each spec alone. Okay. Let's start with the general notes, because they are already quite spicy. So they reduced the barrier cap from 50% of maximum health to 25% in World vs. World. This is really interesting, because in World vs. World, barrier is a really important thing to do. You see in Cirque play, most of the people have barrier. Thanks for the follow, King. Welcome to the stream. So having 50% of your maximum health added on top of your normal health is extremely strong, because you can actually upkeep that most of the time, or quite a lot, because you run 4 supports sometimes in your party on organized squads. So that's insane. If you now nerfed it by 50% to 25%, this is a really big nerf to the survivability, because that's effectively decreasing your maximum health. And that's really, really good. And the same goes for the Relic of the Flock. Relic of the Flock is exactly the same, because Relic of the Flock just gives you barrier on healing skill, and the internal cooldown was increased, so it's way harder to use, because it now is way more punishing. You can't spam the barrier that much anymore. So that's definitely something that I would say is a good change, because you will see that over the whole course of the World vs. World changes, the most important thing that they are following here is that they want to decrease the tankiness and the resustain and the spamminess of current World vs. World Cirque gameplay. Because they just spam all their buttons, and then there are some alacrity providers in the group, and in the end, you have your buttons back up in a few seconds and you can spam them again. And now they decrease the barrier access, they decrease the amount of boons you get. For example, you will not get any alacrity anymore. So this is a big change as well. There is no alacrity sharing in World vs. World except from the Harbinger Elite. And this is really, really crazy. So you will not have alacrity to share. And that's also the next change here with Relic of Rivers. They reduced the alacrity duration from 2 to 1 second in World vs. World only. So that makes it also harder to get self-alacrity to decrease the spamminess of builds. yes, there is no alacrity share in World vs. World anymore. Not at all. And this is, in my opinion, sad to see that gone, but I think it's a balanced decision you could objectively agree with, because not having a boon ball running around and doing, I don't know, just healing permanently, getting all the booms permanently, having permanent maximum barrier is really boring to see. You know, you can't change that without tackling alacrity, in my opinion. And that's really important, I would say, that they change stuff like that. Let's see if it's enough. We will only see that after the 11th of February. But in my opinion, it's definitely a change that is, yeah, that is, in my opinion, decent for sure. Let's see if it's really turning out like that, or if it's just boring. Because in the end, I really like to have theory crafting, and alacrity is also part of that theory crafting. But of course, if it's just leading to unhealthy gameplay, it's not working. Yeah, for sure. And I fixed a bug with this interesting skill that is actually a racial skill. Not too important for most people, but yeah, still. Let's go to Elementalist now. So Elementalist is interesting. They did some dagger buffs in the last balance patch, or overall in the last patches actually. And now they revert some of them. So you get more damage on Fire Grab. That's nice, at least in PvE. More damage because dagger is not run, offhand dagger. Then you have, this is what I'm talking about. So we have Frozen Burst, cooldown increases, as well as Cleansing Wave cooldown increases. This is just the sustain and Condi cleanses that you get because of this applies an aura. So it's also a blast finisher. So this is really good. Just some baseline increases to make it a little bit harder to play this as a bunker supportive playstyle, which is definitely okay. Then they nerfed Transmute Frost Aura to double the cooldown. This is interesting because this is actually quite nice to get some crazy good healing and regen for your allies. So now it's nerfed, so it's definitely not as good anymore, but I think it's still worth it to run for sure. Yeah, and then regarding the Relic of Rivers change, I think the interesting part here is you have to see it like that. Yes, it's only 1 second down, but it's baseline 1 second down. That means if you have 100% boon duration, it will now, even with 100% boon duration, you will only get it up to 2 seconds. Before you could get it up to 4 seconds. So this means this is a little bit harder to consistently get alacrity. I think it is fine that you have this still as a relic, because if you have a build that dodges a lot, you can make use out of it for sure, even with the 1 second. But if you are just using it because it gave you 2 seconds of alacrity and you don't dodge that often anyway, then you will feel the change. So I think it's build dependent for sure. Okay, back to the elemental changes. So Ride the Lightning, increased power coefficient. You will see that they will nerf buff PvE damage from the dagger just to get more damage. Makes sense because it's not run for damage at all. Then they actually nerfed Shatterstone, which is the Scepter 2 in water, as well as the Scepter 3 in water, just to decrease the damage. You can see that Scepter damage just down overall because it's a very strong build in PvE right now. PvE Alacrity Tempest or PvE Alacrity DPS. I mean, DPS Tempest with or without Alacrity is really, really strong with Scepter. And they just nerfed the damage to tune it down a bit. It's still playable after the nerfs for sure, but it's definitely not top DPS anymore, which is good to make a room for new builds. Then Tidal Surge. Interesting that they give some nice Warhorn buffs. I think Warhorn is not run in any game mode. So now it's a blast finisher. Water Globe is actually a really interesting skill now, because it's now not traveling in a line anymore. It's now around you or follows you. So this is really good because now it's a water field that is, healing field that is around you. Really, really good. And they also buffed some Cyclone skill, so it gives you now super speed as well. So Warhorn is actually a decent support weapon now. They reduced, however, the damage of it in PvE as well. This means it's not a DPS option most of the time anymore. It's more like a utility option, because you also get now resistance, which is really interesting. So maybe you could make a build for World vs. World at least that is using Warhorn as a support offhand. I think that would be really cool. In PvP, I don't see that played as a support Tempest just because the invulnerability on focus is too strong. You would not drop that for those skills. Maybe some really high-level people that know when to use that skills might be okay, but most of us probably not. Then they actually changed some stuff with the spear. Spear just nerfs in PvE, just the baseline damage down, but in PvP and World vs. World they increase the damage or the cooldown to make it a little bit more useful, because spear is, I would say, in a not as good spot as they wanted to be, so they definitely increased the damage or the cooldowns here in competitive modes, but decreased it in PvE, which makes sense. It has a really high benchmark if you can pull it off. The interesting part here is fixed an issue that prevented etching from being charged when multiple etchings existed at once. So this makes it way more easy, as well as this one makes it way easier to play this build. So even though it is now nerfed in the damage, it is probably one of the better builds to play right now, because it will get the fixes to make it way more consistent DPS. So that's very good to see. I think that's better than having a build that is really inconsistent but does a lot of damage. Yeah, again, they nerfed some sustain from the PvP Tempest build with Earth, and they changed actually persisting flames, which is really interesting. Now it triggers on inflicting burning and not on hitting with a fire field, because that is really hard to do on a dagger. So now it's with burning application, and therefore you get the stacks way more consistently. That's really nice. Even though they reduce the number of maximum stacks, doesn't affect it because you will now get more damage from the stack. So in the end, it's the same. Overload Air change. This is really important for the Fresh Air Tempest. It's a big nerf, because that's most of your damage comes from this skill. So it's a big nerf, but it's definitely okay because it was such an overperforming build. And then we have some Invigorated Torrent nerfs, which is a really strong trait. This is the one that gives you vigor and regen on auras. So a little bit of boon duration nerfs. You will see that across the board that World vs. World not only gets alacrity nerfs, barrier nerfs, but also just boon access nerfs. Not only alacrity, all other boons as well, so that you just spam them less frequently. Yeah. And then this is actually really interesting. Not this Shade Sphere's change, but this one. Spectacular Fear is now really different. This Spear Specialist now decreases the boon duration is now decreased, so that you can't that easily spam all the boons anymore, which is sad because it was really cool to have permanent boons all the time with this trait. And this is only in PvE, however. But the other part here, this trait now increases Shade Spear cooldowns in PvP, makes it actually, depends how long they increase the cooldowns, for sure. But if it's somewhat, I don't know, if you feel it, then you will not run this trait anymore, because this was so good that you could spam your Shade Sphere. And now you can't do that anymore, probably. And therefore this build is definitely getting hit by this, and you will probably swap back to Staunch Auras, because they increased this from 1 second to 1.5 seconds. That doesn't seem like much, but, and this is the important part, it's now covering a lot of your skill cast times, especially on Hammer. Hammer has a lot of slow skills, and the 1 second was not enough because you could sometimes be interrupted at the end of it. 1.5 seconds is enough to cast almost any skill on Hammer fully. And that means Staunch Auras is actually a really good trait for Hammer. So it's very likely that Hammer Catalyst will be back with Staunch Auras. I think that's fun, because this build was already quite useful, and now it's definitely, I would say, back in the meta. Okay, so that's enough for Elementals right now. Let's go to Engineer. Okay. So Engineer is interesting. They don't have that many changes for Engineer. They changed a little bit of spear stuff, just increased the angle of the skill, and also increased the cooldown. This was a really strong skill, even though not a lot of people actually ran Core Engineer with spear, but this was a really good, or is still a very good skill. Now the cooldown is a bit higher, and this is just a buff, I would say. And then jump again. Most of the changes here just for World vs. World to make it a little bit more less spammy, a little bit less annoying to have all the base barrier, base boon duration so high. Now it's a little bit weaker. Interesting here that they now increased damage of Acid Bomb, which is really from the Elixir gun, really weird skill. And they now increase the damage on the first pulse. I don't know why you would do that, because no one actually runs that for damage, but okay. Yeah. And also the barrier application is definitely lower. You will feel all of that, especially with the barrier nerfs to the 25% only, not 50% of your maximum life. That's all of that will come together, and I think the Boon Boys will definitely be less tanky. I'm not sure if they will not exist anymore, but we will see. Then they buffed power, or not power, but protection holo in PvP and World vs. World. Hardlight Arena, a really strong skill now. It has now more boon application, or longer boons, with less applications, but you don't need the skill to be activated over 50% anymore to get the longer duration. Instead, now it grants you barrier. And the cooldown is down by quite a bit in PvP, so it might bring back protection holo. Let's see if that's really true, because it was quite a debated build back when it was meta, but I can see that happening. This was one of the important skills that you used in this build. Heat therapy is now a very small change from 30 to 34, but this will proc consistently, and therefore you actually get quite a lot of healing from this trait, from this buff. So I think this is definitely a way to buff Holosmith. I'm not sure if you really want to do it like that, because that's definitely increasing the usefulness of a protection, very slow Holosmith and not some really fast roaming full damage Holosmith. But let's see. And they now changed kinetic accelerators, which is the quickness trait. It's now applying quickness when you use a whirl finisher as well. That's really interesting, because previously it was only on the other finishers, and now it's whirl finish as well. You can use that with hammer, for example. And this is really good. This is a very good change for PvE, also for all the other game modes, but this is definitely a good change. And then reduce the mat duration in World vs. World as well, and if no Fury anymore. This is just to not spam that much anymore. I'm not okay with reducing might, because that's also, yes, I agree, you need to decrease all the boons to make it less of a boon ball, but if you decrease the might and decrease the tankiness of the enemy circ, that means you will also deal less damage, because people will have less might. Yeah. And this means less damage and less tankiness leads to probably quite the same amount of boon balling, because that's just negating itself. So I think this is really important that they don't overdo that, because I think might is quite important to deal damage. Yeah. So that's important. And again, alacrity nerf. Welcome, Ayotai, welcome. So that's Engineer. Nothing too crazy. Just some... I would actually have expected a little bit more buffs to Holosmith in PvP. But I guess they are happy how it is and just wanted to nerf the other overperforming stuff. Let's see if that's enough to bring it back in the meta. Okay, then we have Guardian. So Guardian is interesting. They have a lot of PvP changes in Guardian, which is okay, because Guardian was actually quite used, or is still very useful now. So we have some hammer nerfs, which is really interesting, because a lot of people on NA say, oh, who plays Guardian with in PvP with hammer. But I think on EU, at least I encountered a lot of even Willbender's core Guardians with hammer on PvP. And I think it's okay to nerf the power coefficients of those skills, because they hit really hard, really hard. And now it's a little bit less punishing. Then we have a really interesting change to the skill of the, how's it called? Sword 5. This is now no longer slows enemies. This was one of the really strong applications of slow. Willbender can now not slow anymore. So that's crazy, because this was really, if you hit this, people were really hard to get their defensive skills out. It now immobilizes on the first hit instead of the second. This is really crazy, because now you can just port on them and instantly immobilize them. However, the cooldown is increased in World vs. World. So I think this is overall an okay change. It is probably still a nerf, because the slow was really crazy good. But in the end, that's just needed at some point. Yeah. Then Helio Rushed, which is the 2 skill on Spear. Just cooldown increase in PvP. Yeah, just like I said. you should increase cooldowns to make the build a little bit more punishable. Especially because that will also decrease damage, not only from this skill, but also from the Stormsinger proc that you were running, the relic. So, yeah. Then claiming this is the third skill on Spear. Just decrease the damage. Solar Storm, increase the cooldown. You see where this is going. They just nerf all the PvP-related Spear skills and make it a little bit less spammy so that you get more punished for not hitting your stuff. Also, resistance duration is down in PvP as well. Interestingly enough, they did not nerf Spear at all, except from the Symbol of Luminance cooldown in World vs. World. But there will be more changes in World vs. World to Willbender in a second. Then they buffed Dragon Hunter in PvE. This is definitely needed. Dragon Hunter was really good in some burst situations, fractal bursting or something, yeah, or dungeons, but in longer fights like raids or strike missions, it was definitely falling off. So now it will definitely be back, which is quite nice. And I like this. This is a good change, in my opinion. Yeah. And then we have some Firebrand buffs again. Really interesting. I mean, they always bring it back at some point. Some buffs. In PvP, let's see. I'm not sure. This is probably not enough to bring it back in the meta, but if they consistently buff the boons and stuff again, it might become meta at some point again. Then increase the cooldown of this. Yeah, this was a really strong trade and is still very strong in World vs. World. And then that's what I'm talking about, the Willbender changes. We get hard nerfs to the virtues, just like I expected, increasing the cooldowns of F1 and F3. It makes it way less spammy, and of course, very important, it's also decreasing the mobility. So you get punished way harder if you used it in the wrong moment. And Flowing Resolve, which had ammunition, 2 actually, now only has 1, just like in PvP. And this means you can't use the Condic Lens that often anymore if you have the trait. And it's just overall decreasing the virtue effectiveness, which is definitely the way to go in that sense. Yeah. And last but not least, we have some changes to the might application, and of course the alacrity is gone from Phoenix Protocol. So LA nerfed again. Yeah, I talked about it just for a second. I think LA, you can summarize it as PvE Scepter Elementalist got nerfed, PvP Dagger Elementalist got nerfed, Warhorn got buffed, PvE Spear got nerfed, PvP and World vs. World Spear got buffed, however, and Catalyst got, I don't know, changed back to Staunch Auras probably. Spear Specialist is definitely worse now, in the competitive modes at least. Yeah, that's the quick summary of Elementalist. So, some nerfs, some buffs. Just for all the classes, actually. That is the general gist of the patch. Some buffs, some nerfs for all classes. Okay, let's go to Mesmer. Mesmer is also interesting. They adjusted some stuff that I expected and some stuff that I did not expect. For example, they buffed this Sword 2 to deal more damage, because Sword, no one used Sword anymore, because Dagger is just more damage. They decreased damage coefficient of Dagger, so maybe Sword will come back. I doubt it, but maybe. Then we decreased the Mind the Gap, which is the 2 skill, really hard hitting skill in PvE, especially. And now they reduced the damage. That means Power Virtuoso, Power Chronomancer will have less damage, which is definitely fine. They had a lot of damage. Then, really interesting, they did not change Mind the Gap or any spear skills in the competitive modes. That's interesting because the spear skills in competitive is still very strong, especially on Virtuoso and PvP. It hits really, really hard. Or also on Mirage. Mirage has really crazy good damage with spear still. So they did not touch that at all. Let's see how that turns out. But I would expect that Mirage and Virtuoso are back better than ever in PvP. Then we have Illusion of Life, just cooldown increases, and nerfs to the protection application. When it comes to this trait, it's a little bit less useful in, I don't know, in competitive modes it was very spammy. Bountiful Disillusionment decreased the vigor, and Fury duration. Fury is really important here in PvP because it was very long-lasting Fury for your allies. Now it's only 6 seconds, so almost half of it. That's really good. Definitely making it a little bit less useful as a support, so maybe Tempest will now be the king of support. Then mental defenses, just increase the resistance base duration to make it less spammy or less long lasting. That makes sense, all the boons duration go down. Then increased flow of time or liquidity duration. That's interesting, but that also means that's for yourself. But however, stretch time, this no longer affects your allies. So this makes it so you can't share your alacrity anymore. So the alacrity here is only for you. And and it only grants might now. So it's just a might trait instead of alacrity, which feels obviously like a big nerf, and it is. But they changed every single alacrity to be something else in World vs. World, so it's not something that you would run most of the time, I would say. Also, Mirage also got the same treatment, Vigor instead of alacrity. Yeah, like I said, alacrity is not existent in World vs. World as a shared boon anymore except with Harbinger Elite, and that's, I would say, for the better. Then, this is really interesting, the rework of Nomad's Endurance. Previously it gave you Vigor on Shatter and Vigor grants you condition damage. Now, doesn't give you condition damage anymore, but it gives you outgoing strike and condition damage when you have Vigor. This means you get baseline either power or condi, or both, buffs. And this is really good to make a power Mirage even better. This is a 10% buff for power Mirage on PvP. Power Mirage already hits really hard, so this is a really strong buff to it. And also this is for all game modes. So that makes Mirage better in every single game mode when it comes to power. And this is really strong. Maybe power Mirage and PvE is finally viable. Let's see. Then they increased the damage multiplier here from sharp edges. Yeah, okay. Then Blades on Harmony reduced the power coefficient a bit. They said they want to be still able to one-shot or to deal a lot of burst damage as a Virtuoso in World vs. World, but it was doing it a little bit too much, and now they decreased the power coefficients here. That is okay. Let's see if that's enough, but I think it's, with the Boon Boy meta, I think it was good to have something that deals a lot of damage from range, but let's see. And they reduced the power coefficient of Platon Requiem, and increasing the power coefficient here is not really crazy, because in the end, this is a really low baseline skill that does not that much damage. And especially in the competitive modes, it feels like nothing, so I'm not sure how much that impacts it. Yeah. And the hitbox size of 1000 cuts is increased. That's really interesting. It makes it, I don't know, maybe more useful skill in competitive modes. In PvE, it was very useful as already. Rain of Swords, just some damage buffs. It was already used on some builds. And then Jagged Mind, this is the important Condi Virtuoso trait. Gives you bleeding on critical hits. And this means now almost, it's an 11% nerf. And this is a very important trait. So this will definitely decrease Condi Virtuoso's damage by quite a lot. So let's see if people notice that, or if it's just still a very strong build because of the defensive it brings. And then just 3% damage nerf to Power Virtuoso in PvE as well. So overall, Messner, I would say, quite aggressive nerfs to the boon application in World vs. World, and some crazy buffs to Mirage, and some nerfs in PvE to Virtuoso in particular, but all Mesmer actually. And then let's go to Necromancer. So Necromancer gets some crazy nerfs, I have to be honest. But let's start with Soul Shards. Yeah, just some decreasing of the damage bonus and the healing bonus. It's the spear buff. Yeah, I think that is okay. It was quite aggressively tuned, and now it's a little bit less so. Extirpate is the 5 skill. Just deals more damage now because it has quite a long cast time, and you can actually dodge it quite easily. And now it's way more it feels better to hit, and I think that's good, because I think if you have a long cast time and you don't hit it that frequently, it should be quite decent if you hit. And really interesting, Sword 3 velocity down by 25, both of them. So this means now it moves slower. It's really interesting. We will see how that plays out, but that makes it a little bit less useful on a power build, for example, or on all builds for that matter, but it was used on a spear sword power build most of the time in PvP. And the health cost has been increased. Yeah, I guess that's okay. Then they increased the radius of Gravedigger, which is a buff to all the Greatsword Necromancer fans out there, especially useful in PvE, of course, but also in competitive modes if you wanted to play a Power Reaper with Greatsword, for example. I think that's not the best build right now, but this mod might make it better for sure. Also, the increase to the angle of the hitbox of the skill is important. And then here's the big nerf. Making Nightfall a 40-second cooldown in World vs. World feels so bad. It is such a good skill, yes, it corrupts boons, and now it's 40 seconds. I'm not happy about that because it was countering the boon meta. You run this on every single Necromancer in a circ probably, but now it's a really big cooldown, and 40-second cooldown is actually insane. I think not a lot of weapon skills in the game have that, and it feels really, really bad. So I'm sad about that because it was actually important to boon rip the people. And now this is a fix the bug. Yeah, not that crazy for all game modes except for World vs. World. And then you use the cooldown of the Scepter 3. This is good because that makes it more boon corrupts that you get. They want to have you run Scepter. I guess that's fine. Then increase the power coefficient of this well just to make it a little more damage with Necromancer. Hopefully we get some Reaper gameplay back. That would be cool. And even more than already. And then Spiteful Spirit, which is a trait in Spite. You get more boons removed in PvP and World vs. World. This is really cool. I think that's making boon removal more accessible in Necromancer again feels like a good thing, in my opinion. Then they reworked the Dagger trait. The Dagger trait was previously not that useful at all, and now it is very interesting. You now grant other allies stacks of Taste of Blood when you use a Dagger skill, and Taste of Blood causes your next attacks to siphon health. We don't know how much that will be, but that could be really, really cool, so that you have a supportive Necromancer in a way that you help your allies steal even more life than usual when you run blood magic. I think this is really cool. I'm not sure if that will work out in competitive modes, but in PvE I think that is a decent alternative if you know, for example, you are Heal Scourge and you know your allies are not downing that much and you don't need the Well of Blood passive, then you could go with this to help them heal even more. Maybe that's useful. Then they actually did something crazy. Previously they nerfed all the CC skills to have not a power scaling at all, or not that much damage anymore. And now it's the back. Executioner's Scythe is the 5th skill in the Reaper Shroud, and now it does big damage again in World vs. World only. So maybe that's bringing Reaper back again as well. Then just some nerfs to the boon application of Scourge and Barrier. So really important. Just to decrease the boon balliness again. So really interesting changes and a lot of nerfs to World vs. World. But also some buffs as well with this boon removal and power. Just, I think, like I said, every single class gets buffs and nerfs. I think this is a patch that is changing stuff. Let's see how much it will change stuff. But I think they are definitely addressing a really important issue with the boon balling in World vs. World. I think Necromancer in PvP is still quite fine, and Necromancer in PvE didn't get touched at all, I would say here. Just some quality of life changes with the angle and the radius up here. Let me hydrate for a second. Okay, let's go to Ranger now. So Ranger get actually quite a lot of changes. However, most of them are buffs, so we did not see that one coming. No, I'm joking. I think spear buffs were quite expected, but a lot of other buffs are actually also there, and that's not that easy to predict. So Frost Spirit, boon access down in World vs. World again. Then a big change here. reduce the cooldown of pet swapping with a defeated pet from 60 to 25 seconds in World vs. World. This is a very experimental change. Pets die so fast in World vs. World in Cirque that they now said, okay, let's make the defeated pet swap less than half of this. Let's see if that will change anything or if you still have a dead pet all the time. But maybe that brings it a little bit more in line to make it useful on a druid or even on an untamed. And then all the spear buffs to all the skills in PvP, World vs. World mostly as well. Yeah, I think spear was underused there, so it's good that they didn't buff it. Let's see if it's now buffed enough to make it useful. I think it has a decent kit. The problem is that the cooldowns and just the power damage is not enough. Maybe this time it's enough. They also buffed the power coefficients in PvE. I think now it's where it should be. That means that it's probably meta on a power build. That's nice, because I think it's cool to have a spear on your power build, because that fits. So that's a very good thing. I think Soul Beast and Power Untamed will be very happy in PvE. And yeah, just more buffs to all the changes to all the power or spear changes. Yeah, I think it's really important that they buff spear because it was underused in every single game mode, so I think it's really good that they changed it. Then they increased the far-sighted damage bonus. That's a trait that increased the damage from the range. It's now in World vs. World increased, which is really interesting because it makes one-shot longbow ranger even better, but most other builds didn't use it, so now they want to make it a little bit more aggressively tuned, I guess. Let's see if that turns out for the better. Then again, they nerfed the might application on druid. That's crazy. In PvP, this was not used that much, but it's actually now completely gone in World vs. World and PvP. So this is really, really crazy to nerf all the might, because that means that you get way less might in a Cirque, and therefore it might be even tankier than before if no DPS have might anymore. But let's see, maybe we can still get less boon balling going with all the nerfs to the boon application as well. But this is, in my opinion, not a good change to nerf all the might application as well. I think it's important to have a fast meta and not nerf everything. Also the damage, because that means that in the end you will have still the quite tanky boon balls, even though they are less tanky by itself, they also get less damage. So I'm not happy with the might changes. And then this is a really interesting trait now. It gives you now more astral force generation. Yeah, I think that's okay. I'm not sure if it's really needed, but that's, yeah. Not for support, only for aggressive druid, because it's the one that alters your celestial avatar skills to be more offensive. Yeah, let's see if that turns out to be anything useful. Again, mind changes and increase the cooldown from the revive elite and decrease the amount revived with each pulse. So this is heavily nerfed in World vs. World. It's also one of the things that made it very boon-bally. Druid was really, really strong to revive allies, and now it's a little bit less effective. That's fine in my opinion. It's a little bit sad because it was something very special. Not a lot of classes have that kind of reviving power, but I think it's still very useful, for sure. Then they removed the boon removal on the exploding spores. Yeah, just, I don't know. Oh wait, sorry. It now removes boons. That makes it better for, I don't know, maybe, I don't think that Untamed will be run in Cirques, but maybe it can. And it's now quite decent, I would say, for PvP. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think this is a very good skill now in all game modes. Then increase the damage modifier. Yeah, in World vs. World, maybe. I don't know. Maybe you can make it work. Then increase the life stealing for Untamed here in PvP only. I think this is really strong. And with the spear changes, I think Untamed might be back in meta, if it was ever out of it. And I think this is really interesting. Untamed is a really skillful spec. I think in PvP that's good to have it back to some extent. I think it should not be too oppressive. Let's see if that's the case here. And yeah, also increased damage modifiers here in World vs. World. But I think the biggest overall happy thing is Ranger's Spear. I think this is really nice, as well as Untamed changes. I think Untamed in PvP and also Spear in all game modes is definitely better now. I think that's a Ranger got away quite happier most of the time. Yeah. Okay, let's go to Revenant. Yeah, I think Ranger was in a weird spot in PvP. It was not that crazy good. It was not bad, but now it's definitely back on the meta for sure. Yeah. I think that's a good thing because Untamed is a very skillful build. You can't just spam all your buttons most of the time. You get punished for that. And I like to have skillful builds being good because that means that it's not face rolly all the time. Yeah. And I really like that they buff Spear because Spear was really underperforming in every single game mode. And now they buff it to make it a little bit more useful so that the Ranger mains can enjoy their Spear finally as well. Okay, let's talk about Revenant. This one is a hot one. There are a lot of changes here for sure. So let's talk about the big ones already. PvP nerfs to all the Condi Refs fans out there. And I'm talking big. This is really big. So increase the cooldown from the Thor 3rd and the 4th skill. This is very strong because cooldowns might not seem as very important, those small changes, but they are, because you can't, over the course of the match, you will lose a lot of applications of this. So it makes it way harder, especially at Blizzard Blood. It's a really strong CC skill. So this is really important. Really, really important. And then reduce the ammunition again from 2 to 1. So it's now like in PvE. So that makes it less useful, less might application, less Condi application. So overall, all the damage goes down from the Condi applying things at the Condi Ref. I think that's good. Condi Ref was really oppressive, really strong. I think it's still very strong, but now it's definitely a little less so. Yeah. I think this is a very good nerf to Spear because it doesn't decrease the damage output, it just decreases the spamminess, so you get more punished if you don't hit it. I think that's how it should be, that you still have damage potential, but if you don't hit with it, you get punished for it. I think that's important. Then they buffed Power Ref in World vs. World and PvP. Yes, that's nice. I saw a lot of people playing it already, but now it's definitely way better. It gets some stuff and especially some auto tech or buffs on the sword. Really, really good, because that's the most important thing on Power Ref is the auto tech actually, because you spam them a lot, especially with impossible odds. And this is really, really good. Really good change. Makes it way better. I think it might be back in the meta if we don't get enough, if we don't have that many Condi classes around. Revenant is always struggling against Condi classes. So if that is not the case, Power Herald is back in the meta. I think a lot of people are enjoying that for sure. Then again, some nerfs to World vs. World boon application. Yeah, energy cost up as well, just less stability. Yeah, had to come at some point. And then also increase the upkeep of the bubble of legendaries and tower stance. That's actually quite a lot of upkeep. In PvE it doesn't matter that much, but in competitive modes that actually hurts quite a bit. Then this now has a 5-second cooldown. Before it didn't have one, so you could spam the pain absorption. Now you can't. This is actually quite, hard nerf to World vs. World. And then they made some interesting changes to the Shiro legend in World vs. World. They just straight up buffed it by quite a lot. So reduced energy cost, reduced upkeep, and reduced energy cost, and make it more damage in World vs. World. This is interesting. They just want to be Shiro to be viable. I think this is fine. It's not oppressive in World vs. World yet. Let's see if it will turn out that way, but I don't think so. I think that's nice. And it's only for World vs. World, or this one for PvE. But I think you won't use it in PvE most of the time. It's probably only for the CC. In World vs. World, you might see that definitely in roaming. I think a Power Herald in roaming is now really, really good as a aggressive option. Also, maybe even for small 5v5, even a little bit bigger, might be very useful Power Herald. So it's back on the meta. And they decreased the damage buff of Burst of Strength in PvE 5% for power and 10% for Condi. So this is quite big nerf. They also reduced the might duration from Herald in PvE. That means Herald is less strong. It's very good right now, and it will still be very decent after the patch, but it will be less so, which is okay because it was really, really strong for a long time. And then they reduced again damage boni, and that's okay, I would say, for decreasing the just decreasing the usefulness of Boon Quickness Herald, but increasing the damage boni from the Power Herald that doesn't apply that many boons. I think that's good because Power Herald is not played at all, and now there is a distinct difference between a Boon Herald and a Power Herald. And then we have some changes to Alacrity again. Orders from above is now really bad. It's only applying Resolution instead of Alacrity. This feels really, really, that hurts a lot, but that's just how they do it now. And damage modifier up, yeah, okay. Maybe it's enough, but I don't think so. And then we have some changes to Vindicator, but that's actually not that crazy. Yeah. So you can see Ref got actually, except from the Shiro buffs in World vs. World and or let's say for the Power Herald buffs, all the other builds got nerfed, so that's, I would say, definitely okay. So Revenant again, World vs. World, yeah, support was very good, and now it's got a little bit less good, so yeah, that's okay. Yeah, now we get to the, at least in my opinion, the biggest surprise of the patch. Not that I didn't want it to happen, but I did not expect it to happen. So, Thief nerfs. Let's talk about Thief. So, they completely reworked Spectre. We will get to that in a second. But they buffed the... oh no, let's start with the Scepter skill. So they changed again. Quickness is now not there anymore. It's Vigor now in World vs. World on your Scepter. Also, the base barrier and the healing power is now down. As well, no might. So this is just the Spectre support is now way worse, which is a little bit sad, but it was quite useful in World vs. World already. So now it's completely, yeah, not that good anymore. But we will get to in a second that it actually can still be used. Then we have some changes to the roaming Thief players out there. So that affects especially Daredevil and Deadeye, but actually all thieves that are using those skills are definitely affected. So initiative cost up by 2 from Black Powder. So you get way more punished for using this skill as a perma stealth skill, or perma smoke field to self, then Death Retreat, Deadeye skill, as well as Death's Advance. Initiative cost way up, so it's very punishable if you use that at the wrong time or if you just use it in general. Then Shadow Step cooldown up 10 seconds in World vs. World. All that makes it so that your mobility, your stealth access gets neutered in that sense, so you get less uptime of it or get more punished for using it, and if you get caught after that, you can't use it again. So I think this is the way to go. That makes Thief still playable. It doesn't lose damage in that sense, but it loses just the engage and disengage playstyle. It gets way more punished for trying to do so, and if they fail, they will be dead probably because they don't have enough initiative or the cooldowns left. So I think this is the way to go, because it can be really annoying to fight a Deadeye that is consistently stealthing and sniping you from range, and as soon as you engage, it disengages and comes back with full life and full initiative. So this is now way harder to do. Then again, initiative reduced in World vs. World as well. So the stealth act is not that helpful anymore. Yeah, I think it's, of course, for the people that enjoy Thief, it's sad, I get that, but it's not like this is not playable anymore. Yeah, this is just more, you get more punished for failing what you wanted to do in the first place. Because previously, or right now, if you play against a Thief, doesn't matter which spec actually, they can perma-stealth, they can engage whenever they want, and now they get a little bit more to think about. They have to think what they engage on, and as soon as they just are not thinking about it too much or just want to spam their skills, they will lack initiative and will probably die because of that. I think this is a very debated change, but in my opinion, it's very nice to make roaming more enjoyable, because playing against the thief is always really annoying. If you're playing the thief, you might have, but I think in the end, it was a change that most people would agree on is actually decent. So sad for all the thief mains, but for all the other people, probably definitely a good thing. Okay, then we have some Spectre changes. Spectre is actually getting quite a lot of changes. Spectre was in a weird spot. In World vs. World, it could be used as a support, but in all the other game modes, it was not that used. It was good, but it was not that useful. Now it probably will get way better in PvP as a supporter or a hybrid, and in PvE is definitely useful now. Because of a lot of the skills now get increases to damage. Yeah, back again. And you will have increases to the usefulness of the Shadow Shroud. So the Shadow Shroud now heals the first one and grants might. This now removes conditions, the second one. The third one grants barrier at the end. The fourth one heals for each ally, for each enemy struck. And then the last one gives stability to allies. So all of the Shroud skills now have very nice support elements baked into the kit, and they are AoE and not only to your tethered target. This is really good because that makes Spectre an AoE healer. Of course, that's not the roleplay anymore, but in the end, better have something that is useful than using roleplay to not make it useful. So in the end, I'm happy with those changes. I really hope that Spectre and PvP comes back as a hybrid Condi damage supporter. That would be really cool. And then we have some really quality of your life changes here. Thrill of the Crime and Bountiful Theft now also have triggers when you use Siphon on an ally target. This is really good because that makes it, just useful to take on a Spectre that wants to support, because previously you get punished so hard if you use the Siphon on an ally because you didn't trigger that. And then some changes to World vs. World again, and Shallow Grave now gets some cleanses to allies when you Siphon. That's also nice. And the condition transferred in PvP and World vs. World is bigger. I like that. It's just a buff. Spectre was not that crazy good in PvP for a long time. It's still it was useful, but it was not that useful, and now I think it's back, and it might be back in the meta together with Untamed and Hammer Catalyst. So we are a little bit back in the EOD meta, I would say. The only thing that is missing is Bladezone, but I guess that's for the better. And then, just this now is now completely changed this trait. Let's see if that really, impacts it that much. But all of that, Spectre, big winner. Deadeye and Daredevil in competitive modes, big loser. No, not big, but quite decently nerfed. So that's Thief in a nutshell. I think very good changes, at least for me as a mediocre Thief. I think those are good changes. Thanks for the follow, by the way, Spellrite. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And then let's go to the last class. So the last class that we have here is Warrior. Warrior, again, I can't believe it. If you had that on your bingo card, it's actually crazy. Rival changes. Rival, I think the last balance patch has always had rival changes in there, and this is no different. So I would say these ones are quite aggressive now. I won't go over all of them. I would just want to say Killshot, and also the one that is the Berserk one is now way better. It gets more damage, and because of affected by crowd control or below 50% health, that means Killshot deals more damage. I know Lone Cap is the PvP player that likes to play Gunshot, Gunflame Warrior. This will definitely be really obnoxious to play against again, especially because you can now recharge your skill with Rival Butt. So that makes you can do 2 or even 3 Gunflames with the healing skill, so that can be really annoying. Maybe that will be a new funny build to play in PvP. Then they nerfed the resistance application from your banner. That's just a little bit less boons. I guess that's fine. Then they increased Rampage power coefficients. That's actually interesting, really interesting. I would say not important for most builds. Maybe it's now used in a PvE warrior build, but yeah, I don't know. Very interesting. And then very big change here to dual wielding. This is really crazy actually. Dual wielding previously gave you an attack speed buff, which is not stacking with quickness, so therefore was not used at all in PvE, and now it stacks with quickness. That means you get way faster attacks, yeah, on all your sword, axe and stuff skill. And this is really interesting because that might bring builds back that are really we haven't seen in a long while. So Warrior is in a really interesting spot. I think Warrior got some nice changes. While wielding a main hand weapon in your offhand, this trait now also heal the user when critically strike. That can make for some insane healing potential. Yeah? Not only in competitive modes where this might be way lower, but in PvE, if you run that on a solo build, I think with Sakiro's Relic or something, this is insane how much healing we can put out. So I think Berserker, Power Berserker is actually back on the meta. This is really crazy good. And the heal is improved if the enemy struck is bleeding. So this is in group play always the case. So this is really, really good as well. So very big change to this trait. Very good trait now. I think this is one of the best traits for Warrior in the game now. It's really, really good. Let's see if you can make builds around it, but it's really good. And then Scorched Earth, yeah, just buffs to it. It was not that useful, or not that much used Condi Berserker. Now it's better. Let's see if it's enough to bring it back into meta. But I think it's a good build for sure after this. Yeah, but the same here. Last Blaze buffs, yeah, good. And done some changes to Spellbreaker meditations. I'm not sure if you will see any of those three here. Imminent Threat always has been and probably will still always be the worst skill in the entire game. This is just really, really bad. And the other meditations are also not that crazy good, and buffs will probably not do enough here. Winds of Disenchantment buffs, that's good. Makes it a little bit more to counter boon balliness. But I'm not sure if it's enough to take down any boon balls by its own. But let's see. And then last but not least, we have some changes to the Bladesworn, especially to the Gunsaber. This is good in PvE because Bladesworn was underperforming in most circumstances, or at least weak, because it was really just annoying to play for the most part and did not do enough damage to make it worthwhile. Now it's a little bit less so. It does more damage on your Gunsaber abilities, but I think it's still not where it used to be because it is still not with the Dragon Trigger at the high end from the damage. I think Dragon Trigger, if they would buff the damage back again or the rotation of that, that would be way better than just increasing the Gunsaber. But better than nothing, I would say. And lastly, we get some, no alacrity on this, but more Might and Fury. So alacrity is gone on every single skill that shares it in World vs. World, except the Harbinger Elite. So overall, Warrior, big plus, big winner, big W. And I'm happy with that. I think Warrior was in a weird spot in all game modes, I would say. Now it should get better for quite a lot of builds. Yeah. And then lastly, this is really interesting. I did not expect that, to be honest. Changes, or they showed the upcoming relics. There will be 12 instead of 6 more relics coming. We don't know, at least I don't know, if there will be 6 Chantewald's relic as well. We know about 12 core relics that will come with the next major release. Really cool. I'm happy about that. I always like to see more relics. We will get back all of the summoning relics or runes that we had. So we get a Golemancer, a Lich, Ogre, and Privateer rune. I'm not so happy about those. I'm not a big fan of having an AIs around me or the enemies, but people enjoy that, so I think that's good to have it back. For those people, I hope it's not meta, but still, you can honor them. And then we have some really interesting relics here with Altruism, gain Might and Fury to nearby allies after using a healing skill. This can be really useful on support builds if you don't cap out in Might and Fury on yourself in PvE, but all the other game modes is probably not that useful. Maybe, it's not that good. Then deal increased strike damage to low health enemies. Yeah, that is okay. Depends on the build, of course, that you play. But nothing too crazy. I think the core relics are not designed in a way that they are really crazy good, but definitely useful. Yeah, so it's more baseline relics. Then Relic of Earth, grant protection and magnetic order to nearby allies after using elite skill. This is really interesting because this is now the first relic that makes it possible for every single spec in the game to reflect. Previously, it was really hard to make some classes reflect. For example, Revenant did not have any reflect. It had some deflect, but it didn't have reflect. And now every single class has access to reflect, which is really interesting. It's also giving it to allies, so that might actually be useful on, for example, the Tempest in PvP. If you run with, for example, yeah, I think it might be useful. Depends a little bit on the duration of the magnetic aura and the protection, but I think that might be useful if you're not fighting any Condi builds and you don't need the shout Condi cleanse. This can be used on PvP Tempest, I would say, with Rebound. And then Relic of Fire, gain Fire Aura after using a healing skill. Fire Aura now increases outgoing strike damage. That's interesting if you can combine it with Weaver, for example, or Catalyst, some fire trade line. This can be really interesting. It depends how much that is, of course, the outgoing strike damage. So let's see. Interesting relic for sure. Then Holosmith 1, yeah, nothing too crazy. It was as a rune in there already. All of those were runes somewhat before. So no one used that, or not that much. It was actually used on some Holosmith builds, but yeah, that's it. Shocking Aura after using Elite Skill. That's another one. Relic of Searching. Really good, potentially, on, for example, Power Herald in PvP. The reason for that is you have 2 Elite Skills, so you can proc that twice. And if you run Herald, you actually have somewhat 3. And this is really, really strong because you have an instant cast with the Herald Elite Shocking Aura application. And that can be so good that it might be worth dropping, for example, your damage relic, like Firework. So this is probably a really strong choice for PvP. I'm happy to see something like this where you have some nice, skillful gameplay. Yeah. Then Relic of Thorns, gain stacking condition damage when you are hit by a poison void. This is really weird relic. I'm not sure if that's really meta. Depends on how much condition damage you get. Could be useful in World vs. World roaming for a Necromancer or Spectre even, or a Ranger. Let's see how much that is. Maybe I can craft a build around this, but it's not. It's, I don't know, really weird relic. And then lastly we have Relic of Vampirism. Sadly, it's not giving us bad, or probably for the better. The, how's it called? The Mist form that you got back in the old days from the 6th rune buff. Now it's Siphon Life from nearby foes when you use a healing skill. Restore a portion of your maximum health upon killing a foe. Depends how long the cooldown on that is. Might be useful in some builds, but it's probably not that crazy. Could be fun in a World vs. World thing when you kill a lot of foes, but most of the time then you win and you don't need the healing, so I'm not sure if that's really a good relic in that sense. But in PvE, if you go, for example, in a big meta event, it can be a really nice option to run a power build or just a very selfish raiding build without any boon application and healing, and use this relic instead of a power relic or DPS relic for that matter. And then you get enough kills that you heal all the time. That might be interesting, but I think I don't see it run in any really scenario. So any real scenario. So I think that's my summary. So let's summarize it in a way that, I would say every single class gets buffs and nerfs. I like that. I think most of them are actually changing stuff. So I think this is good. I think PvP has some, probably my predictions would be PvP gets Untamed back, Spectre back, and Hammer Catalyst might be back. While, I would say Willbender is still okay, still very good. Not as good as it once was. Probably you can also run now Greatsword, because Greatsword is now on the same power level as Spear, I would say. When it comes to builds that are already good, that did not get hit, that will be Tempest is very good as a support, and Mirage as a DPS will be still very good. Chronomancer will be a little bit less good, but still playable as a support. And I think that summarizes this quite well. I'm not sure Warrior on the side note will probably not that useful, because we will have more Untameds running around and they are already quite good against Warriors in general. And then Tempests as a hybrid build got a little bit hit, but therefore we got some buffs to maybe PvP Spear Catalyst. I think that's okay. And yeah, I think PvP overall, good changes. Very interesting to see how it plays out. But I think the direction is nice. And then in World vs. World, big changes, of course. We have barrier changes, alacrity changes. We have less alacrity or no alacrity at all. Less boons. I think that might adjust the boon. Yeah, might adjust the boon walliness. Definitely, I think that's good. Let's see if we still have a very slow meta in World vs. World. I hope it will get faster, and I hope they will do more changes like that in the future. And lastly, in PvE, yeah, some changes. Mesmer got hit quite hard when it comes to damage, but all the other classes should be fine, except maybe Elementalist got a little bit nerfed, but that's it. I think all the classes are still playable. There's nothing that is nerfed so much that you can't play it anymore. The big winners of the patch in that sense are, of course, Warrior is just a very good winner in PvE especially, and yeah, I think that's good. Also, Spear buffs to Ranger, really nice. Ranger should be really good in PvE as well. And lastly, what I forgot, I think in World vs. World, Thieves will be sad, but that's just how it is. I think they had it coming a long while, and now we are there. So yeah, I think that was quite a nice patch. Yeah, very good. Okay. Yeah, I think Thief is actually, it's not worse in that sense. You can still, that's the important part. I think Thief is still playable in roaming, for sure. Definitely. But I'm not sure if you would say it's as broken for roaming anymore as it once was. Yeah. Yeah, so I think, let me say that I will definitely try to craft some really, really interesting warrior builds. I really enjoy the trade change with the dual wielding that it now stacks with quickness. That's such an amazing change. You can make now really cool changes to open world builds to make use out of that as well with the healing. I think I'm really happy about this. I think there can be some really cool changes, but also in the competitive modes. I'm really happy that they made a change like this, because that makes in the competitive modes, you could, for roaming, some nice power berserker maybe with X or something. That's really, really cool. Let's see if I can make some build work with that. Of course, I have to wait until the 11th of February, but I think that can be really interesting for sure. Yeah. I'm not sure if Pistol Warrior will be back. You could actually, that's true. Pistol is also affected by dual wielding, but I'm not sure if Pistol is really the way to go for Warrior. Pistol is a PvE weapon in my opinion. It doesn't have that much utility in competitive modes. But let's see. And I agree, Elementalist, of course, Elementalist nerfs, especially to PvE Elementalist. I see that. That's a little bit sad, yeah. But I think it's not that bad that they are really just down in the ground all the time. I think it's the only, that's the worst part I didn't say in my analysis just now. The only really big thing that I think is sad is that they, and I'm really sad about it actually, is that they didn't change anything, and I mean really literally anything, about Weaver. There is no single trait or skill change of Weaver. And I'm really sad about it, because I think Weaver is the worst elite spec. And they did not change it. Yes, it will be affected passively or by all the weapon changes. Yes, that's true. But I'm not happy about the state of the traits and the utilities. So I'm really sad that they did not address anything when it comes to Weaver. That is the big, the secret loser of the patch is actually the one that is not mentioned, the only class that is not addressed at all. So that's a little bit sad, but yeah, I guess what can you do? Oh, there are some people. Maybe I can defend it. Okay, 3 people. Let's see. Doesn't look good. Oh, maybe. No, I got 1. I got 2. Nice. 2 down. But there are more coming. Okay, so let's continue. I think Elementalist, especially when it comes... I think Elementalist is the big loser of the whole patch. Because a lot of builds that are really good right now and a lot of people enjoy it are getting hit. They are probably still playable PvP Dagger Hybrid Elementalist and Scepter Elementalist in Fresh Air in PvE gets hit. Also Spear Catalyst gets hit. So that's true, but in the end, I think it's still playable, so that's not too bad. And the build, yeah, I can show you the build. This is those are the traits, and those are the gear sets. Celestial with Leadership Rune, and Relic of Nyos, and Dagger with Energy and Absorption. And those are the traits. Yeah, so I think Elementalist is a little bit sad, but in the end, it's probably not enough to make it really, really bad. So I think it's still very, very decent. So, yeah. And lastly, wait a second. And lastly, I think the Thief changes are really good. I'm happy about them because they are not completely... They are making it completely not playable in World vs. World anymore, but it's definitely way less oppressive and broken in that sense. So I'm really happy about that. And then, Roderick, I think Mirage and PvP, it didn't touch it at all. That's the interesting part. They did not even touch Spear at all in PvP. It's only in PvE. So that makes me wondering why they did not do that. Because they buffed it. That's the important part. Mirage got buffed. They did not change Spear. It was completely the same, but they buffed it. Now, Power Mirage in PvP gets a 10% modifier, which is actually insane. This is actually really insane. Why is that? Because 10% damage on the Power Mirage that already does insane amount of damage. I think this will be the new meta build. To be honest, I think that will be the new Willbender. Everyone will be running Mirage now as a power build. The reason for that is Spear is just so good and Mirage has a lot of damage. And the only thing that makes it a little bit less crazy, I don't know. I think Mirage will be back in the meta. I think it's better than Willbender in that sense because it does more damage. But it's in that sense, it's better because it has... if you get one hit on it, it's probably dead. It's very squishy. It's a very squishy build. So I think Mirage is really hard to play, and you get punished very hard if you fail to do your combo and stuff. So in my opinion, that's a better Willbender to have, because Willbender does a lot of damage, a little bit less than Mirage, but it's way easier to play. And you have way more defense baked into the kit. So I'm really happy that this is the way they did go and change stuff, because that will change the meta in a way that I like. Yeah, I don't know. And then I agree that I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with Upriel here in Twitch chat that the Spectre gets hit actually, and that's the sad part, by the nerfs to Deadeye and Daredevil. Yeah, the stealth access with the pistol change is now really, really hard hitting for Spectre, because Spectre can't now use the offhand pistol that well anymore. This is that's definitely a change that I'm not that happy with, because I think Spectre is the only thief spec that is very good. I like it to play against it way more than against the perma-stealthing Deadeye, but it still gets hit by the same nerf. So I'm not happy to that. But I think they should have nerfed SH more. That's true, or only. But I like the changes to the Spectre Shroud. I think those are amazing, in my opinion. That makes it way better in PvE, where you have a lot of people, you can't focus always on one target. And I think that's good. And I think that's a really, yeah, I agree with you that ArenaNet is typically changing weapon stuff a lot, and how they are run, and how much damage they deal and stuff. But they are really afraid to change traits for the most part. I'm not sure why. Because, for example, they changed a lot of elementalist skills as well, but they did not touch a lot of traits. Especially, like I said, Weaver traits, in my opinion, are really, really bad. They should change the Weaver traits, but they did not touch them at all. So, and the same goes for Spectre. I think the Spectre, they should have made Spectre maybe added a trait in Spectre to give you more initiative. Yeah, so that Spectre gets a little bit more utility than the other elites, the other thief elite specs, to make it the nerf not hit so hard. But I think changing the initiative of skills that are also affecting Spectre is not the right way to go. I totally get your point, and I think I'm definitely on board with that. Yeah, I think they want okay, let's say it like that. I think stealth is extremely strong, and I think in every single game mode, especially in the competitive, I think stealth in Guild Wars 2 is one of the most, if not the most, broken buff that you can get. Straight up. And I'm always happy if they decrease the stealth access of classes. Yeah, I'm always very happy about that. However, I think Thief has a big... That's the identity. What else does Thief have, you know? The whole identity of Thief, it doesn't matter which elite spec you play, is that you have access to stealth to play it defensively. And I think to completely nerf it in a way for Spectre that you can't get access to it anymore, or not that easy at least, is sad. And I think also all the other Thief specs are, in my opinion, fine if they have some access to stealth, but in World vs. World they had way too much, especially. And so I think they have gone overboard with those changes regarding the black powder change. But in the end, maybe there are enough people crying in the forums that they will change it. I hope so, that they will address some of that stuff and make it a little bit more not hitting all the classes the same. Maybe they can make it work, but I don't know. I think all the really good thieves don't like Shadow Arts. I think Shadow Arts should be nerfed to the ground, and that would be the biggest thing that they should do. Yeah, nerf it so hard that no one can run Shadow Arts anymore, and everyone would be happy. But I'm not sure why they never do it. I don't get it, actually. I think this is one of the biggest mysteries that ArenaNet has when it comes to balancing. Because Shadow Arts is just... No one likes playing Shadow Arts, either against them or as Shadow Arts Thief. I think that's just annoying. But okay, I don't know. I can't change it. I'm with you there. So, Willbender, we have a question from YouTube here. Willbender, in my opinion, is still good after the patch. And I would say, interestingly enough, it got nerfed more in World vs. World than it got in PvP. So I would say in PvP, it's still a very good build. You might even run Greatsword instead of Spear. Because the only thing that got nerfed in PvP is actually Spear. So it might be now a Greatsword, Sword, Willbender. And for World vs. World, I would say it's definitely, it got hit. I think in World vs. World, it's now definitely less good. I think it already was not the best roaming spec because it did a lot of damage, had a lot of mobility, but as soon as you got outnumbered and you couldn't run away, you will be dead in a second because you're too squishy. And now you've got nerfed way harder in that sense that your mobility or your cooldowns are less frequent. So in my opinion, Willbender is now not that crazy good as a roamer anymore. Power Herald is the roamer now. I think Power Herald will be the best power roamer out there for sure. Yeah. And other than that, in Willbender in PvE didn't get touched at all. So Willbender is totally fine in PvE. Yeah. So overall, I would say the balance patch, when it comes, me as a player that plays all the classes, I'm happy with the balance patch because it changed a lot of things that I think changed the game in a way that I can do more, just more build crafting and test different builds. But if you're, for example, a thief main, you will be set. I totally get that. And I think that is something that I'm not completely happy with, that they changed so much, or nerfed, for example, Black Powder so much. But that's just how it is, yeah. Maybe they undo that change because I think, I don't know, maybe they do it, but I'm not so sure. For all the other classes, I would say most of them got buffs and nerfs. I think Spectre got some nice buffs as well. Yeah. That's just my take. Yeah. Yeah, we'll be also really interested to see how the new relics play out. I'm really happy that they add more core relics. That makes it, I'd say, easier for people to get into the game that don't have all the expansions. You can buy all the core relics on the trading post. That's also cool. And some of them actually seem quite useful, I have to be honest. The one with the fire aura seems decent on a Weaver, for example, or a Catalyst. And the one with the magnetic aura can be interesting. But the most useful one in PvP, for example, would be the searching one. I think it's really strong. It gives you a shocking aura on elite skill. That's really, really good for Power Herald. And maybe it will be the meta relic there. I think that's really cool to have new relics that are not broken in a way, but it can be used on some builds. I think I'm really happy with that. Yeah. But I get why people would be upset with this patch, but I think there will always be people that are upset with the patch. And in my opinion, it's one of the best ones they did in a long while, just because it's changing a lot of stuff, and I hope it's changing enough to make really impactful meta changes so that we don't play the same stuff over and over. Yeah. I also hope that, for example, Holosmoth is back in World vs. In PvP, because it was dead for, I don't know, 1-2 years, maybe even longer. And now it's maybe back. Let's see. Yeah, I think, Alena, so Spectre is, I think, after the patch, even better. So Spectre is a really good thing in PvE. But I think PvE is in a weird spot. PvE in Guild Wars 2, all classes are totally fine. I think it doesn't matter which class you pick when you're a new player. All the classes are really good. So Spectre is no different. Spectre is actually really good now as a support as well, I would imagine. Of course, we have to see if it really plays out that way, but I think it will, yeah. I'm also interested to see how the roaming things play out, because to be honest, I think that with Willbender and Thief gone, I have to be honest, my prediction for roaming is that all classes will now run Celestial except Herald. Power Herald will be the only class that is somewhat decent on a power build. All the other classes will probably be back to Celestial. Even with the nerfs to Celestial, I think there is no build that can now fight any good Celestial build anymore that is not running Celestial. With the exception, of course, of the Power Herald. So I'm not sure if I'm happy about that. Yeah, so the reason is Celestial got nerfed, yeah? So we have now no boon duration and expertise on it anymore, yeah? That's true. But everyone got that nerf. So it's not that a single class gets hit by that harder than another class, yeah? So in my opinion, and that's the hot take, Celestial is a very well-rounded hit that a lot of classes can use. The only counter to Celestial is very high burst damage, yeah? Because then you don't get value of your long-lasting, sustaining stats, yeah? So, for example, a Willbender, a Thief, a Celestial build can't really fight that really well again. So if a Willbender engages on me on this build, and I survive for 5 seconds, I'm very likely to win, yeah? Because I can resustain, I can just deal damage over time, and the Willbender used all its bursts. But if I die to the Willbender, which is quite likely if I'm playing against a really good Willbender, because they have a lot of damage, I can't sustain that as a Celestial build. I don't have that many defensive anymore, yeah? So I will die to it because it's too much burst. Also with a Deadeye, for example, a Deadeye that is permanently stealthing and sniping me with the rival, I can't catch that all the time. I will die to it at some point, yeah? If it's a good Deadeye. But, and that's the important part, they nerfed those 2 specs, yeah? So now, builds that play Celestial and are in for a longer fight, yeah, don't have the bursty counters anymore, yeah, and that means all builds are forced into a longer play, and that means Celestial gets way more value because there is no build that can force you to be over with really fast, yeah. The only exception to that would be Power Herald. I think a Power Herald that you play very well can deal a lot of damage in a short amount of time and has some nice defensive as well. So I think Power Herald might be a really good roamer for you if you enjoy power roaming. But all the other builds are either running some really nasty Konyi, tanky, Trailblazer, maybe Ritualist setup, or you run Celestial. I think this is, if you're solo roaming, probably the only way, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that's always why people that cry about a specific class getting nerfed in a vacuum, that might be true, but meta is always affecting the whole thing, you know? It's not one class getting nerfed and that's it. It's always one class gets changed and another class will be affected by it, even though it's not the same change, or, you know, didn't get changed at all in that sense. So I think, for example, the nerfs to Elementalist Dagger will also be applied to World vs. World, yeah? So my Dagger will now be, this will be on a 25-second cooldown, and this will be on a 15-second cooldown, yeah? That's true. But it's still a very good build, because most of the time when I need those cooldowns, yes, it will probably hurt that it's 5 seconds longer on my Cleansing Wave, but in the end, all the other classes that I could fight and would make difficulties to me got also changed. So I think this build is actually very decent. Yeah, very after the patch. I think it's one of the best roaming builds then. And yeah, that's just my. Yeah, I think we have a question from YouTube here. What do you think about quickness cutter nerf, but no quickness Deadeye nerf? I think, in my opinion, I think it is in general okay to make quickness cutter have less damage than a quickness Deadeye, because a quickness Deadeye is very special in what it does. It's like a quickness harbinger. It does quickness to its allies, and that's it. It's not providing that much more boons. Yeah, maybe some might, maybe some fury, but that's it. Catalyst, on the other hand, with the spear specialist trait, gives all the boons, except alacrity, you know, and stability maybe. It gives so much other boons as well that is very useful. You got resistance, you got protection and stuff. It's really crazy. And I think that it's fine that you have a build that is so versatile in the boon application, that it does less damage than the one with the just quickness. Yeah, that's my take. But, and that's the important part, I'm not totally happy that they changed the quickness in that way that you have now to invest a little bit more in the boon duration and stuff. I think that's a weird thing. I'm not completely happy with that. But let's see how the numbers turn out. Yeah, maybe it's still very valid to play. I think so actually, but we never know until we test it, I guess. Yeah. So that's my take on it. And I think both of those builds are still totally fine. I think they are very good builds and at the end of the day. Yeah. I think they got even better with the nerfs to Quickness Chronomancer and Quickness Herald. So those will now go up in value because just all the other contenders that were really strong are now worse. I think Scrapper is now a really good, was previously, but now is even a better quickness support. So I think we have a lot of strong quickness options now. We already had, but now we have even more. Yeah, for sure. So PvE is definitely in an interesting spot in my opinion. A lot of good changes in my opinion. I'm just a little bit sad that they will change this trait here. This one. I think in PvP I think it's only in PvP. That means it's really interesting because that is still very useful in World vs. World on my roaming build right now. But in PvP it will increase the cooldown of the Jade Sphere. So if it maybe goes to 15 seconds, maybe even longer, it's way less spammable. So I think that makes this build, the Dagger Catalyst and PvP, unplayable. And you will, no, not unplayable, but way worse, and that therefore you will play Hammer Catalyst instead. Yeah, that is my take. But let's see if that's true, because sometimes you expect a change, or you see the change and say, oh, that's really bad, but then they change the numbers just a little bit, and it's not that crazy anymore. It's not that hard-hitting anyway. So if it's just 2 seconds more, I think that's not a problem. If it's 5 seconds more or even more, then it definitely hurts. It hurts quite bad, actually. Yeah, but let's see. You never know. And if you run this trait in PvP with 1.5 seconds of stability, as well with some nice relic in the maybe with the Fire Aura relic, then maybe it's a nice build. I think I could expect that to work out in the end. I don't know. Let's see. So I think after this cap, I will go do some PvP. And I don't know what, I mean, I think the sad part is they nerf Spear Power Harbinger a bit. I think this is a little bit sad because it was in a really good spot in that sense, because if Willbender got nerfed, it would have been in possibly one of the meta builds. But now it gets nerfed a bit, so I think it might be overshadowed by Mirage for sure. But yeah, Mirage on the other hand is quite hard to play, so I think Power Harp is way easier to play, so we might see Power Harp still being around and people enjoying it. But I don't know. Like I said, let's see how it plays out. I mean, what's your take on I talked now so much about the stuff. I'm not sure. What do you think about the changes? Because I talked so much about them and gave you my opinion, but I'm always interested to see what other people think about it, because there are so many changes in there, and me, even as a player that plays a lot of classes, I might have just overlooked something that I think is definitely worth to play on, to address. So, and if you're a new player here on stream, don't worry. As a new player, all of that stuff doesn't affect you, because even if you pick the class that now gets a nerf in that sense, it's still totally fine. No class that I talked about in this stream is unplayable after the patch. Not at all. I think the nerfs are, we have we can summarize the patch like we have minor nerfs that change just the overperforming builds to be a little bit less overperforming, and major buffs. And I think that's the direction of the patches in the last few years even. They always nerf stuff a little bit and buff all the other stuff a very big amount. So in the end, we have more power creep. So a year from now, we will have more power creep, or more power in general in every single game mode than we had a year before. Just because they nerf stuff less than they buff stuff. Yeah, I'm also quite excited about the warrior changes, I have to be honest. I'm with you there, Heavenfire. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, even if you are not that experienced, I think it's nice to have your opinion, because that's just what we want to discuss. Yeah, I don't say my opinion is the only true one or only factual, objectively correct one. But yeah. So no putting, no worries. I will upload a video and edit the stuff, so you can watch it later if you want with the edited stuff. I will upload it and release it later today if I can make it work. So don't worry. Oh, of course you can also watch the VOD. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you played Guild Wars 2 for a year, you're still definitely someone that has enough experience of the game that you can at least say, oh, I don't like fighting thieves, so I'm happy that they changed it. I think that is a fair point, you know. A lot of the people that play Guild Wars 2, yeah, are not as experienced, or maybe not experienced, but maybe didn't play the game for so long that I did. I think that's totally fine. I think even, I don't know, but I don't just, maybe 80% of the people didn't play more than 5 years. I think this is totally fine. That, and it's even more important that those people, because there are so many, also get a voice and a vote in that kind of discussion. You know, it's just important that everyone gets heard. So I'm always happy to discuss this with people that might say, oh, I'm not too new to make a comment on it. I think it's really important that you make a comment as well, because a lot of players are like you. And if we just say, no, we only listen to the veterans, then the new players will not have fun, because the veterans are maybe completely different when it comes to discussion. Thanks, No Pudding, for the follow. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think that's definitely fine. Yeah, I get that point. No. I think actually fighting thieves, especially in World vs. World, was even the. Yesterday I watched a lot of other streams and talked to a lot of people, and even the really, you know, the people that won monthly ATs multiple times and stuff say they really hate fighting thieves. Yeah, really hate them, and they are so happy that they now got the changes that should have been there years ago. So even those really, really skilled people say on board with this, with your take. So that's just how obnoxious it is, you know. So I think 95% of the community enjoy the Deadeye and Daredevil nerfs in World vs. World. Only the few roamers that only play Thief will not enjoy it. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I'm happy about, is that this balance patch is impactful enough, I would say, to make changes in every single game mode, so that we at least have some new stuff. And I'm really happy about that. Yeah, I'm also really interested in if they had some shadows, buffs and changes, fixes to stuff like, yeah, just exploiting into towers and keeps and stuff. I really hope that stuff like that. Okay, what do we have here? Packwax, that's not good. It's not good at all. What do I play here? Oh no. How do you have two good people in the enemy team? That's actually also a good player. I could play support here actually. Let's go for support. Really, so they did not fix any of the exploit. I did not hear that in that stream, but that's really annoying. I think that's one of the worst parts about the game, if they don't find the time to fix bugs and exploits. I really hope they will do that sometime soon. I'm really hoping. My character closer, which one? I will show you after the match, okay? If you want to see the Reaper one. This is just the Elementalist one. But I can show you later after this match the Reaper one, okay? Yeah, that's crazy. If it's really, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they don't have enough time to fix anything that is broken in the game. They just always want to push out new stuff, and then they don't go back to the old stuff. I think that's really sad. There are bugs with strike missions and PvE content in general that never has been fixed, and I think it's such a big problem. Such a big problem. Yeah, I think we have one good player. I'm not sure who this is, but it's a really good player. And the enemy team has also 2 good players, so let's see if we can make that work here. They have a power mirage, which is really scary. At least you can't go under the map anymore. I mean, there's probably a way you can still do that, but I hope they find... Oh. That was a good CC by the Necromancer, I have to admit. Oh, that emob hit. That was nice. Okay, so we have to be careful. We are a bit overcommitting here at mid. We got the kill. I guess... Is there someone far? Yeah, is there? Okay. That's interesting. I should probably reinforce far. That's the support gameplay. I don't know where to go. My team is... okay, we got a kill here. That's good. I have to help my teammate here. I think we might get the kill here. Oh, it's a rampaged one, okay. A vengeance, sorry. Okay, so far so good. This is the double dodging Necromancer. I think this guy is so dead. Can I get this? No. How many people are here? Why is my team... Oh, I don't. Okay. That's so... The pathing on the skill is so weird. I have to be honest. I can't get that. They interrupted me too much. It's so sad. Okay, he had to blink there. That's good. If the blink actually hits here. Please. Oh no, they got the kill here. Ah, sad. Okay, I tried my best here. Sadly, there were just too many people. My team did not reinforce our fight here. We have to be careful to not be getting snowballed here. They're now pushing to get the sword buff, which is really, really bad because sword is really strong on Power Mirage, obviously. I think our Necromancer is dead here. Nice, I got the interrupt, I got the emob. Nice, we got the kill on the Mirage. Very good, very good. But they got the whole map on that. That's not good. That's not good. We got big caps, I guess. Please try to fight on point. Oh. Okay, he got rim. They had to do this because otherwise they might have killed them. I know the guy vengeance, but I had to be really safe here because the CC might have... I'm not sure. It was the safe play here. This guy is dead. I can't help far, but I don't want to because they are all reinforcing them. So, yeah. That's a really close match, so I think that's really interesting. Yeah. Too much damage. Yeah, that was not good. That corner killed me there. Ah, that's so sad. I wanted to jump up, but it was too high, so I couldn't, and then I died. So sad. Yeah, I think PvP is just... there are so many people that just play very, very weird builds. So, I mean, I did not play against a Condi Mechanist with Rival. That seems like a big cook, I have to be honest. I mean, this is a good fight for us because... Oh no, it's not. No, it's an outnumber here. I have to leave for sure. But I don't know. Our team completely lost mid. Now they are overcommitting here. Oh no, this guy is so dead again. No. Ooh, please be careful. Nice, we got a kill on the Roller Smith. Nice, we got another kill here. Focus this guy, please, 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 please. Nice, we got them. 3 people down, nice. 4 people down. Okay. I don't know. Had to make sure we got this, because if they get the rally here, we are completely out of the game, I guess. And my glyphs are really... I'm not happy about my glyphs. I have to waste them all the time. Ooh, that's not feeling very good. Okay, we get the kill on the Necromancer here, for sure. There's someone going close, yeah. Now we're in a good spot. Because 2-cap is the only thing we need. 2-cap only, and people will come to us and we can fight them. We have to be careful not to overcommit too hard. Too close, because there are 2 people already there. If I get a nice DC, no. It's nice I forced the invuln. Okay, now I have to be moved there. Yeah, a lot of people. Nice, we got a kill. Now we're in a really good spot. Necromancer is a little bit pressured. I have to help him. Okay. Such a close game. Ooh. Okay.
The artifacts have reached maximum power. Red team has obtained an artifact.
Yeah, I'm not sure. My glyphs are not on point because I have to use them to save. No.
You've captured dragon.
I think he I think he's getting quite annoyed by my CC all the time. So now we are here in a really good spot because we can... Oh no, my teammate died close. Sad in a 1-on-1. That's really bad actually.
You've lost dragon.
No, I think it's fine. Ooh, someone had a banner there, okay. Good that we killed it. I was actually really sure to... Nice, we got the kills. We have to go for the close decap here, just reinforce them. Let them bleed a bit. Oh no, he's dead again. Oh, that's not good. Okay, not dead yet, but quite close. What? He's playing so aggressive. If you can't survive against the Holosmith, please. Okay, we have this guy for sure. Now we probably won the match. We have to be careful to not get hit here. Oh, they got it. That's not good. And they have the sword buff. Oh no, we actually have to lift it.
You've lost lion.
I just die and point at this point. We have 40 points, almost ahead. Is that enough to win? I guess it is. 30 points only? We get 30 points, they get 60 points. Oh, that's getting so close. That's getting way too close. We get a decap far. If we don't die close, we are fine. We win that. But we could. I don't have cliff. Oh, that's so close. That's so close. That's sus. That's not what we want. Okay, give me stability to get the kill here. If we get the kill, we have one. We get the kill. Oh no, we died here. That's not good. I think we lost. I think we lost. If we don't get kills here, we lost. No, they get the sword buff as well. Oh no, we lost this match. Oh my god. That is insane. That's insane. I mean, I died once too often, but oh, that hurt. That hurt. I have to be honest. Ooh, that hurt. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That was definitely not unwinnable for sure. We could. I mean, my team did feed a lot in 1-on-1s. That's the sad part here. But I'm not sure. I think the Necromancer pushing for far was the losing point at this point. Because if the Necromancer wins far 1-on-1 at the end, we win the match. Because they get the decap and get a kill. If the Necromancer pushes close and we win the fight because we have one more person there, we also win the match. You know, if we get 2 kills there, we win the match. But the Necromancer pushed far and lost the 1-on-1 and we lost the whole map. That was not something you want to see. And as a support, I can't influence that, you know, that's the sad part. I tried to go there where my team needs me, which was close at this point, but I couldn't influence it anyway, because in the end, my team needs support and that's where I'm going. So, really sad. But I think it was the right decision to support in this match because that's the only way why we survived that long, for sure. Was a nice match though. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, there is a new which of the new relics? Let me check. There's a new relic coming. Yeah, this one, Relic of Earth. Oh, we have a match. Relic of Earth, Ground Protection, and Magnetic Aura when you use an elite skill. This could have been so good in this match, because I did not need any Condi cleanses in this match. There was not that much Condi pressure. The Condi Reaper was dead all the time in the enemy team, so we didn't have any pressure there. So I couldn't drop my Condi Cleanse relic and go for this, and we get more protection uptime. And we get more... yeah, just more reflect and stability uptime. This would have probably been really good on this build. In that case. Okay, so who do we have here? I don't know. Thanks for the follow, Kip. Thanks a lot. Okay, who do we have? I'm not playing support here, that's for sure. But maybe I have to play side note. But it's so slow. No, I can't play that. Maybe I have to play Dagger. But Hammer is so bad. Yeah, let's try this build. But I'm not too happy about it. I think it's not something we want to play against a good Power Mirage. They just one-shot me. But I can try my best. My team is way too offensive to go for anything that is not side note. That's my reasoning. And support on this map, I really dislike it. The reasoning for that is support is always good when you have team fights, but on this map you have possibly 5 nodes to contest with the 2 buffs coming up. And the support then would probably be alone at one of those points. So it's a really bad position to be in as a support. You always want to be at least with 1 or maybe 2 other people. And that's really bad. So support on this map is not my go-to option, especially in ranked. Support is always feeling quite frustrating at times, but this is definitely not the map to try it out, your luck. Okay, so no one came here. That's a little bit sad. I wanted, of course, to have a 1-on-1. So I can now reinforce mid. Oh, there we go. We have a 1-on-1. Come on. That's so unlucky. That's why I hate confusion. I cleansed 5 Condis and it wasn't the confusion and I died to it. That's so annoying. That's so annoying. I really hate that. That's when you get outplayed by a condition just baseline. Yeah. I played it wrong in that sense. I just had to do nothing. That's why I think confusion is one of the worst conditions in the game. I will push in again. I win this. This is just really annoying. Yeah. So annoying. And Alena, I didn't forget your request. I will do it after this match. Okay, this guy is so dead now. Please leave. Okay. I mean, confusion is always... The counterplay to confusion is to just not do anything, yeah? And that's not something that you want. That's just very unhealthy in my opinion. But here I actually knew I could cleanse it. I have so many cleanses, but every single cleanse just evaded the confusion. So it did not I don't know. I just died to it because I pressed 3 buttons. I don't like that. But it's fine. We got the kill here. I will let them bleed. We have 2 points. And at this point, I can also push far if I wanted to. And they don't have a DC. I don't know why this match is such a stomp, but yeah, sometimes the matches in ranked are just over. The H will get buffed, yes. In PvP not so much, but in the other game modes, yes. So in my opinion, the H is a valid option for all game modes now. PvP, I have to be honest, I think the H was never in a really bad spot, but it's definitely worse than it has been in the. So I would say after the patch it's a little bit better, but it will not be completely broken. That much is for sure. You know you can't win this by now. Know that you are Condi spiking. I have way too many cleanses to make this annoying. Nice, we got them. DH is Dragon Hunter. Dragon Hunter got buffed in PvE specifically. In PvE it gets more consistent damage. That makes it way better as a DPS build, because currently it's only used for speedruns in fractals and dungeons. Maybe on some raid fights where you have the right circumstances, where you have a lot of bursty phases, then DH is decent, but it has a very lackluster long-term DPS, and therefore it's not very good. But right after the patch, it will definitely be the way. Oh. No, my teammate. Yeah, very good. Not the most exciting match. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't know what to say about this match. It's just over. Happens in rank. The last match was at least quite entertaining, so. And it's always better to be on the winning side than losing a match like this. It's just annoying. But for all the Mirage enjoyers out there, I think the next balance patch will, in every single game mode, Mirage will be insane, to be honest. Maybe not so much in PvE, but in all other game modes it will be completely busted. Okay, so now we'll show you the Necromancer after this match, okay? And then, let's see. Nice. Okay, so I think it's not very special, my outfit here on the Necromancer. So we can check what it is. Glint's mask. I don't show that. Snapdragon coat, fire gloves, magic legs, and ravens and sandals. Yeah. So I think I like that outfit. I really like the Pyre gloves. I think that's one of my most favorite glove skins, just because it's very useful for any class, because you can just dye them in a specific color and it fits the class. I really like it. So yeah, I think it's a nice outfit. If you want to copy it, you can also just watch the VOD when it's out and stop at any time. Yeah, and with that, I think it's the end of the stream. I hope you enjoyed it. And hope to see you next time. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for the follows. Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend. Yeah, see you around.